According to a new Washington Post report, prosecutors have told attorneys for the Trump Organization that both the company and CFO, Alan Weisselberg, are likely to be indicted today.
Joining us now to discuss is Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman and political and policy strategist and former congressional candidate Amanda Mackey. Welcome to you both.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
And so Weisselberg turned himself in this morning. Andrew, do you think that they're trying to get him to flip, or do you think that this is the fish that they're happy to have in the boat?
No, I think this is the first the first thing to fall here. Look, they may be trying to get him to flip, absolutely, and there's been some rumors out there that he will talk. I mean, I think this is the first of many indictments we will see around the Trump Organization. Look, and let's be clear here. There's news out today that Donald Trump is emboldened by this news, that this is going to ensure his run for 2024. But this does not mean that Donald Trump won't be indicted. I mean, and it's about damn time. These guys are going to be held accountable for what a lot of us have known for a long time is, bad actions and bad actors in that company. So we'll see where it goes. But I think this is just the first of a long string of events here, Ryan.
Amanda, Andrew raises an interesting point, which is that there is reporting that Donald Trump is emboldened by this pursuit of prosecutions, and I think that's and by this news in particular, and that's interesting because I think we've seen that to be true in the past. I mean, for all of the targeting of the Trump administration by people in the FBI and the DOJ, as we learned more and more about it, Donald Trump loved that, and he seemed to thrive off of it. And so, to Andrew's point, if there's an indictment coming down the pike, how do you think this affects Trump politically, given that he probably thinks it's a good thing for him?
Well, this is really a lot like 2016. And I remember being in Florida and hearing from people that, all they do is go after him. They won't stop. They're relentlessly pursuing him. And I think this really fans those same comments, those same sentiments that his base of support has. They believe that he is being solely picked out. He is being selected because they don't like his views. They don't like his values. And he sees this as an opportunity with that culture of people that believe, they call us crazy. They call us, names because they don't believe in the things that we say. They don't believe in what we stand for. They don't believe in the principles that we believe in. And that's why the government is going after him. It's no surprise. I mean, look, they've been targeting President Trump for a very long time. And again, this gives him the ability to tell his base of support, they're at it again. They're going after me again. And his base of support, who believes in him so strongly, they'll be right there behind him to support him.
No,
and,
I agree.
he did say on Sean Hannity last night, when he was being interviewed, that he's already made his decision about what he's going to do for 2024. So this may play right into his hand of what, he plans to do, which is presumably run for president.
No, I agree with that. I think the more people hear about, so Weisselberg, they got him on the Trump Organization basically failing to pay adequate taxes on bonuses, and that's going to come across to people who encounter it as they're going to say, listen, they're just doing everything they can to take down Donald Trump, and Weisselberg is almost certainly trying to flip him, and that's why they got him on these charges. But I think it comes across in the same. I think it is fodder for Donald Trump for sure.
Although I think at the same time, these bonuses were massive and pretty shady. But on the other hand, Andrew, isn't this political in the sense that prosecutors have a limited amount of resources, and if Trump had never run for president and never gotten on the radar of the prosecutor in this regard, would they have gone forward with a prosecution like this?
Look, it's hard to know. It's hard to speculate there. The fact is, he did run for president. He was president. And, at the same time, his company, the Trump Organization, has been doing terrible things for a long time. It's not just on taxes. It's on workers. It's on contractors. And it's about time that someone held them accountable, right? I mean, you can't just get off the hook over and over and over again. I mean, so we'll see what happens
people
here.
Do. People do get off the hook over and over again.
Absolutely, Emily, and I just don't think it's right. But I do think what everyone's been saying here, this will fire up Donald Trump himself and his base of supporters. The question is, what we know is, unless, which Republicans will try to do, continue to suppress the vote and prevent people from being able to vote. But that will be their tactic for 2022 and 2024. But the question is, Donald Trump still needs to win suburban voters. He still needs to win these people that he couldn't win over in 2020. So I don't think this helps him win those voters. Yes, it emboldens his base. Yes, it emboldens the people that give him money, small dollar contributions. But does it help him win a presidential election? I don't think so.
And facts don't seem to matter to a lot of the people on both sides of this, but the basic fact is, though, the Trump organization, that had two basic strategies that really do call into question whether this was operating within the lines of the law. One was their ongoing strategy to just not pay contractors. It was known in New York as the Trump 90%. That if you could ever force the Trump organization to pay you 90% of what they owed, then you should be satisfied. You should be happy, because they're going to fight you in court for that last 10%. And then separately, the New Yorker had a great investigation into how the Trump organization's global enterprise was what they effectively called a money laundering operation. That the Trump trademark was used to kind of allow for these major, multi-$100 million projects funded by extremely shady organizations to flow through, and for the New Yorker to level that charge, given what kind of fact-checking operation and what kind of libel operation they have, is pretty significant. Amanda, does any of this matter? Or will it just be seen as persecution of the man who tried to drain the swamp? That's
what I was going to ask. I mean, so much of this is already baked into the character of Donald Trump that people know, and that many people really love. And what's interesting about everything Ryan just listed off is that it's known, it's been reported out, and it really has never managed to make much of a dent in Donald Trump's political career. So what do you think about that, Amanda?
Look, he's a shrewd businessman, and I think people actually appreciate that about him. They run towards someone like that.
But shrewd business and money laundering are different things.
Well, you're saying
depends on how you define shrewd.
Well, again, what they see, the persona that they see, is a shrewd businessman.
Sure.
These allegations could be, from years past, and they never came to light until now because. The New York Attorney General, Cyrus Vance, and others want to go after and pursue Donald Trump till they can't stop. That's all they want to do. And his base sees that. So everything just bounces right off. No one's talking about this in the inner world of, Republican politics. It wasn't even on. I didn't even hear about this till about 11 o'clock last night. And I think this happened, quite a few hours before. So if you follow conservative shows like Fox or the others, they weren't talking about this because it doesn't stick. This isn't breaking news that they're pursuing Donald Trump once again, or the Trump family once again.
Or because it's not misinformation and it's the truth, and they don't want to spew that on conservative television.
Well, that's irresponsible to say that it's the truth when it hasn't even been litigated. I mean, you can indict a ham sandwich. So they have an indictment, and they've been pursuing President Trump forever. And so let them continue to pursue it, because in his mind, as we've already discussed, this may actually be a good thing for him. He's not someone to shy away from a lawsuit.
I think that's where I'll be curious to see how conservative media handles that actually going forward. If it starts turning to the point where Donald Trump thinks this is great, and then conservatives start to also see this as targeting and talk about it more and more. We'll see.
And so, as we've covered on the show, the New York City Board of Elections released a botched tally of votes for the city's mayoral race. The controversy has become the latest talking point for Donald Trump, who continues to sow distrust in the election process and push his Stop the Steal theory. Amanda, do you think that Trump has a case to make here?
I think this feeds right into his hand. He now has the ability to say, and Elise Stefanik from the state of New York, someone who's been a huge supporter of President Trump, has been able to now say, look, I hope the Democrats now are willing to come along and join me on ideas like election security and fraud and all those things we've been talking about, but everyone wanted to turn the other way. They didn't want to look at the security of our elections because it was President Trump talking about it. Now that it's happening in the New York mayoral race, now you're going to have Democrats saying the same thing. So you have fed right into the hands of President Trump and supporters that believe that this election was stolen. And it's not just Republicans. A CNN poll from January showed that while, yes, 75% of Republicans believe that the elections were not free and fair, 40% of independents believe so as well, and a small sliver of Democrats.
So, Andrew, do you think, as Amanda said, that Democrats are actually going to start pursuing the issue of election security along the same lines in the wake of the disaster that happened, or that is continuing actually to unfold in New York, and that will continue for several weeks to unfold?
I just think this is just, to me, unbelievable, and in terms of, what happened in New York, it was a disgrace, right? But this falls strictly on the Board of Elections. It doesn't fall on the debate around ranked choice voting. This is an issue with the Board of Elections. But guess what? There was still no fraud here. This was a mistake of running, trial ballots in, the count. And they realized the mistake, and it was addressed. I'm not saying that what they did was correct. It was disgraceful, and the Board of Elections needs to be held accountable. But this is not some fraudulent election. Of course, this is going to be embolden Donald Trump, but they make stuff up all the time. This, the pursuit of this big lie after review and review and review is just nonsense, and they're going to continue the nonsense. But look, we are going to continue as Democrats to push the freedom to vote, not some nonsense theories around election security that don't actually need to be addressed, because there's very, very, very little evidence of fraud in our systems.
Right, and Amanda, isn't this some counter evidence in a way? If you do have an actual example of a sizable mistake in the range of 100,000 votes, that the system catches it and catches it quite quickly. So isn't this kind of in some ways disproving Trump's claim that millions and millions of votes were just flooded into the system, and that he can't prove it to any court, even Trump-appointed ones?
That's actually not true. It's not that it can't be proven. It's that the judges voted on procedural grounds. They didn't find it on any kind of meritorious grounds.
They also said you've provided no evidence for this inflammatory charge.
The bottom line is I worked in Wisconsin on the recount effort. I was there during Thanksgiving week. And basically what you see is, I can tell you in Wisconsin as an example, because we're relitigating 2020 right now, that when these ballots required applications for a mail-in ballot, Wisconsin makes it very difficult to vote by mail-in. They want people to vote in person. So they say you have to have an application. If you take that application, a witness has to sign it. A witness has to have their address on it. There were evidence that ballots were cured. There were evidence that these ballots didn't have the conditions precedent required for those ballots. And so when people say it's fraud, that's what they're talking about, that these ballots were counted even though they shouldn't. And I think that they looked the other way in a lot of cases, in a lot of states. And we have egregious examples like the state of Pennsylvania that actually moved the date of the election of when these ballots had to come in. But they did this in the name of COVID, and they won't have that again. But what Americans need to know is that their elections are actually accurate. And this does not instill confidence in people who had a doubt or a glimmer of doubt in their mind about election integrity.
So, and I think where we can leave this on common ground is that essentially it's a question, it comes down to a question of scale. So the question is then, is what's happening in New York and is what happened in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania broadly representative of a problem on a wide scale? And that, I think, is where there's disagreement. But I think we can all agree that our elections have security issues in local places. I mean, there's
disagreement from Trump, but he doesn't actually put forward any evidence that there is anything at scale. Ballot curing is a fine and legal thing. You can cure your ballot. if you don't like the way that the election board ruled on it, you appeal it to the courts, and the courts look at it and said no.
The courts are very
this was
loath
fine.
to take on election issues, period.
Without evidence, they are loath to take it on. This is very true. Amanda and Andrew, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, guys. It was a great conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next on Rising, Matt Taibbi joins us to discuss the politicization of medicine when Rising returns.